Street Fighter is one of the few games with such a legacy that tournaments are still being held for its previous classics, even those from over a decade ago. Unlike other genres where the games are often abandoned once the latest version is released, the fighting game community does a good job of preserving its classics through things like in-person tournaments, online platforms like Discord, and emulation hubs such as Fightcade, which allow players to continue its old titles online. This is especially important for a series like Street Fighter, which has so many games in its series, including spin-offs. Now, if you don't play fighting games, you might wonder why so many people care about the older titles in the first place. While newer entries often bring improvements in graphics, balance updates, and quality of life features, with Street Fighter, the devs purposely changed the core mechanics of the game each time. So naturally, there will be people who dislike the direction Capcom went with. So today, we're going to look at how every mainline Street Fighter entry changed the game. And if you want to see more videos like this, then make sure to subscribe. As you probably know by now, since everyone mentions this when they first talk about Street Fighter, is that it technically wasn't the first fighting game, but it had something that stood out from all the others at the time: special moves using motion inputs. It wasn't much, but these 3 moves alone changed the entire genre of fighting games forever. Any fighting game with motion controls has at least one of these inputs. However, for all of its innovation, the actual gameplay left a lot to be desired. The movement sucked, it was stiff, damage didn't make sense, the inputs were unresponsive, the music sounded like this. Overall, the gameplay just felt inconsistent. The single player mode had all these characters, but only Ryu and Ken were actually playable. And Ken was only an option when you were playing against another player. It was just a reskin of Ryu because they had the same moves. A brilliant idea buried under rough execution. Very much like my current setup. 2 IKEA desks put together to make it feel longer than it really is. Kinda uncomfortable to say the least, but thanks to today's sponsor FlexiSpot, I don't have to worry about that anymore. They sent me their E6 standing desk, and not only was it easy to assemble, it's one big desktop. There's no connecting pieces in the middle, so you have a lot of space underneath. And it doesn't need any, because the 3-stage lift system and dual motors are more than enough to support the desk. They're able to lift up to 352 pounds and can be adjusted all the way from 24.4 inches to 50, so if your little brother or sister wants to use it, they can too. The control panel is intuitive, letting you quickly adjust the height when needed and program 4 different heights into the memory buttons. It's pretty quiet too, generating less than 50 decibels of sound. My CPU editing this video right now will make way more noise than this desk ever will. It even comes with wheels too, if you like moving your setup around a lot. Everything is designed with convenience in mind. I went with the all black frame and top, but you have a variety of sizes and colors to choose from, depending on your needs and where you want to put it. And for whatever reason, if something goes wrong, you have a 10-year coverage on the desk frame and motor, and a 2-year protection on the control panel and electronics. That's how confident they are in their product. I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. I just need to cable manage a bit. Luckily, most of the wires are black, so it blends in anyway. So if you're looking to upgrade your desk like I did, make sure to click the link in the description and get your own FlexiSpot desk today. Again, thank you to FlexiSpot for sponsoring, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of this video. It wasn't until Street Fighter 2 where the franchise really took off, and we saw the iconic character designs and stages we all know and love today. But the biggest change they made was by accident. Again, something you've probably heard before. The classic "it's not a bug, it's a feature." When testing the bonus car stage, a game designer named Noritaka Munamizu noticed that you could punch multiple times in a sequence. They left it as a hidden feature in the game. However, it definitely didn't stay hidden for long. Because of how well received the quote-unquote bug was, they decided to keep it in the updated versions of the game and alter the timing a little to be more consistent. And back in the day, updates to the same game like that weren't a simple update over the internet or something. They were published as separate games. So Street Fighter 2 ended up having like 5 different versions in 4 years. Among them, Street Fighter 2 Turbo was considered the best in terms of competitive play. It's faster, hence the name Turbo, and they added a key mechanic that almost every fighting game uses nowadays. This time on purpose. By using special moves, you can fill your super meter, and when it's full, you unlock your character's most powerful move. Players now had to manage their meter carefully, deciding when to use it and cash out on the damage. And you didn't have a lot of health in that game either. It only took a few hits to be down half your health, so hit confirming into super is a big chunk of damage. Also, the North American version of this game's AI was completely broken. The computer just straight up cheats. It could recover from stun early, not take damage, and a bunch of other things. But other than that, Street Fighter 2 as a whole pioneered the competitive aspect of the FGC. The late 90s and early 2000s was an interesting time for Capcom. Coming off the success of Street Fighter 2, the company dabbled in a bunch of spin-off collaborations and even began exploring 3D polygon graphics for the first time. For their next mainline Street Fighter entry, they took a bold creative leap. They completely revamped the aesthetics, introduced a brand new roster, a new protagonist, and more importantly, new mechanics. The development of Street Fighter 3 was ambitious and expensive, with entirely new animations and hand-drawn artwork. For as beautiful the game looks, it really pushed the budget upward. Despite this effort, the initial release underperformed commercially. However, with refinements to follow-ups like Second Impact and Third Strike, the game began to earn respect among its core audience, praised for its visuals and deep mechanics. One of those being the parry system. Projectiles in Street Fighter 2 were really powerful. If you didn't time your jumps right, you either took a decent amount of chip damage or ate the whole projectile. But in 3 you can now parry it. This greatly reduced the effectiveness of fireballs, as you could essentially nullify them from range. The parry system also gave us really hype moments. Instead of the round being pretty much guaranteed when you chip with super or a special move, if you can time it right, you can pull off some really cool comebacks. And even just last year, we got another Evo moment from Third Strike. Now you would think Capcom would keep their new mechanic that everyone just got used to. I mean, they kept and expanded on supers in the last game. Why not keep parry and add another mechanic? Well, how about we just remove it entirely? I talked about how executionally difficult Street Fighter 4 was in my last video, but I never talked about its mechanics. Instead of having a parry system, they implemented focus attacks. They can still be used as a defensive tool like parries. You'll know when someone inputted a focus attack, indicated by the black ink. There are 3 phases of the attack depending on how long you charge it for. Level 1 comes out like a normal attack and will crumple on counter. Level 2 crumples on hit regardless of counter, and level 3 is unblockable. But the biggest advantage that all of these focus attacks have is its 1 point of armor and the fact that you could cancel it with dash. If the opponent throws a fireball, you can charge through it and cancel the rest of the animation. Some people disliked this mechanic because it seemed to be too powerful, like it had the answer to a lot of problems. It was really versatile and made a lot of unsafe moves safe. The animation was also unique to the character, meaning that it had different ranges and slightly different charge timings depending on who you would play, changing its effectiveness and how it was used from character to character. If you had 2 bars of super gauge, you could perform a red focus attack, which does more damage and can absorb an unlimited number of hits for its duration. It's also cancelable too, but there's no reason to do that because then you just spent 2 bars of meter for nothing. But no matter how you felt about the mechanic, you can kind of see the groundwork for drive impact. I say kind of though, because drive impact is a little different and it's also much easier to react to. Street Fighter V's mechanic was aptly named V-System, and is composed of 4 parts: V-Skill, V-Reversal, V-Shift, and finally V-Trigger. V-triggers are wildly different from character to character, and everyone has 2 types to choose from. Some gauges are 3 bars, some are 2, even 1, meaning the duration of V-trigger or how many times it could be used in a match will vary. It's kinda hard to explain what it does because of how different it is for everyone, but basically it unlocked an ability that made your character more powerful. If you want to talk about comeback mechanics, this is the perfect example. Some characters would straight up rob you in V-trigger, like G or Necalli for example. For them it was basically a timer that let you be overpowered for a little bit, but in Necalli's case, once you popped V-trigger it lasted the whole round. So a lot of the neutral in Street Fighter V is fishing with pokes and looking for something to confirm into V-trigger. Some people felt like their actual character was hidden behind this mechanic, and they're just playing a watered down version of them outside of V-trigger. So how do you fix that? You give everyone all their tools except for super at round start. Introducing the drive gauge. We don't need all of those fancy symbols, we just need this 1 bar. First of all, it refills by itself. You don't have to do anything. This might sound obvious, but the drive gauge is an accumulation of all the previous universal mechanics. Parries, reversals, and the drive impact is similar to the focus attack from 4. Any special move that costs meter besides your super comes from this bar, including this move you never go around without seeing. Drive Rush is a command dash that can be inputted out of drive parry or cancelled after any cancelable move, but doing that costs half your meter. This is how you extend your combos and sometimes start them. Even unblocked people will drive rush to extend their pressure, especially when the character is in burnout. Speaking of burnout, if you spend all your drive meter, your character will get fatigued and you can't use any drive moves while you're in this state. You can also take chip damage and get stunned by drive impact in the corner. Blocking also chips away at your meter, so don't spend it all but also don't sit on it because you'll lose it anyways. You can see how offensive oriented this game is. It only takes like 1 drive rush combo to get put in the corner, and if you spend all your meter, you can take over half your opponent's health. It's interesting to see what big changes get made to each Street Fighter, and we're only in Season 3 of Street Fighter 6. It took a long time for the previous games to get the updates they did, so it's very likely we'll see some mechanical changes in the future. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Which Street Fighter do you think has the best mechanics? Let me know in the comments. As always, make sure to like and subscribe, join the Discord, and I hope you guys have a great day. Peace.